I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My wife Jessica and I had been together for over 8 years. We met in college, got married right after graduation, and for a long time I thought we had a good, solid relationship. Sure, every couple has its problems, but we never really fought, and I trust her. At least I did. Things started to feel off about 6 months ago. Jessica became more distant, secretive even. She'd avoid my questions, get defensive if I asked about her phone or her whereabouts. She'd claim she was busy, tired, stressed over work, but little things didn't add up. She would often leave her phone open and unattended, which was unusual for her. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just overwhelmed or working late on some project, but the gut feeling kept gnawing at me. Then came the conference. Jessica was supposed to present her research paper at this big academic event downtown. I was proud of her. She'd worked hard on that paper, and she was excited to share it with her peers. It was a big deal for her, and I wanted to support her, so I took the trip with her. We booked a nice hotel, and the night before her presentation, I remember sitting in the lobby of the hotel, watching her prepare her slides, her face lit up with that same enthusiasm she always had when talking about her work. But then the signs started to show. She was acting differently, more agitated, anxious even. She kept checking her phone, hiding it when I looked her way. She was evasive when I asked about her plans that night. Instead of resting, she kept going back to her room early, saying she needed to prepare more, but I noticed she was sneaking her phone into bed, typing furiously. The day of her presentation, I sat in the audience, proud and nervous for her. But midway through her talk, I got a strange text message on my phone. I wasn't even looking for it. I was just checking some emails on my tablet. But there it was. An email address I didn't recognize, sent from her to someone named Mike at 2:33 a.m. right before her big presentation. It wasn't just a casual good luck, either. It was more explicit, talking about finally meeting up, getting a chance to really talk, and looking forward to what might happen between us. I stared at it in disbelief. How could she do this? With all the stress and pressure she was under, she found time to cheat on me with her professor. Her former professor, I found out later, a guy named David, who's close to twice her age and honestly kind of a sleazebag. I saw the email, but I also saw other things. Her phone was filled with secret messages, and her behavior the night before made sense now. She wasn't just stressed. She was sneaking around with someone she told me she only had a professional relationship with. I was frozen, stunned. My mind was racing. I felt this deep, sinking betrayal, like someone had taken a knife and twisted it right into my chest. How could she lie so blatantly? How could she sit there and pretend everything was fine? I wanted to confront her right then, but I knew that wouldn't be smart. I had to gather my thoughts, figure out what I was dealing with first. But that email, that was the smoking gun. The proof she'd been cheating on me with someone I trusted, someone she claimed was just an academic contact. And in that moment, I knew my marriage was over. The trust, the love, it was all gone. After I saw that email, my entire world tilted on its axis. I couldn't focus on her presentation anymore. All I could do was replay that moment in my head over and over. I remember sitting there trying to act normal, but inside I was boiling. My stomach clenched, my hands trembled, and a cold rage started to bubble up. She was up there talking about her research, acting like everything was fine, while I was sitting there, holding a secret that shattered everything I thought I knew about her. When the presentation ended, I forced myself to stay calm, even though I wanted to scream or break something. We packed up our things and headed back to the hotel room. I kept my composure, but inside, I was already planning the next move. I needed to confront her, but I also needed to be smart about it. I didn't want her to deny it. I had the proof now, and I knew she was lying about one thing or another. That night after we checked into our room, she acted like everything was normal. She was bitchy, dismissive, and snippy. I asked her about her late-night messages, and she brushed it off, saying she was just discussing publication opportunities with her professor. She played the "I'm tired, leave me alone" card, but I wasn't buying it. I had seen the emails. I knew what she was really doing. I sat her down, looked her straight in the eyes, and asked, "Who is Mike? Who's David?" Her face went pale for a second and then she sneered. "You're reading too much into things, it's just work stuff, you're paranoid." I felt my blood boil. Paranoid? Jessica, I saw the emails, I read what you wrote. You're sleeping with your professor, aren't you? That's why you're so secretive, that's why you've been acting weird. Her eyes flickered with anger and she snapped back. "You don't know what you're talking about. I don't have time for your accusations. I'm tired of your distrust." I could see she was lying, but I didn't need her to admit it outright. The proof was in her own words. She was caught, and her pushback only confirmed it. That's when I decided I couldn't let this slide. I couldn't pretend everything was okay anymore. I had to get out, but I also wanted to know how deep this betrayal went. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything, the lies, the secret meetings, the way she had dismissed my feelings. It felt like I was losing my mind. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the sheer audacity of her lying to my face, acting like I was crazy. I kept replaying that email and her dismissive attitude. I was furious, hurt, and humiliated all at once. I knew I needed a plan, but I wasn't sure what to do next. Should I confront her more? Should I ask her to leave? Should I go meet David and get some answers? Every possible scenario played out in my head. But one thing was clear, I couldn't stay silent. Not anymore. I was done being the fool. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had betrayed me in the worst way possible, and I was determined to find out just how far this went. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to jump into a new world I didn't understand, but I knew one thing: this wasn't going to end quietly. Someone was going to pay for this. Either she was going to come clean and face the consequences, or I was going to make sure she regretted ever crossing me. I wasn't the kind of guy to get even with petty revenge, but I knew this was different. This was personal, and I was ready to fight for what was left of my dignity. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding head and a knot in my stomach. The image of that email was burned into my brain, and I kept thinking about how far gone Jessica was. She was so dismissive, so quick to lie, like she thought she could sweep everything under the rug. But I wasn't about to let her do that. I needed to act, and I needed to act fast. While she was still asleep, I quietly grabbed my phone and started digging through her email history again. I wanted to be sure. I checked every message, every exchange, looking for any other clues, and sure enough, there were more. Not just the one email. Their entire correspondence had been filled with secret exchanges, flirty messages, even some that were downright explicit. I couldn't believe I had missed it before. It was right there in black and white. Jessica had been cheating on me for months, probably even before the conference. I felt sick, but also a strange sense of clarity. I couldn't stay in this marriage knowing she had lied so completely. I needed to confront her again, but this time I wanted to do it with all the evidence I had. I also realized I had to decide whether I wanted to save what was left or just cut my losses and move on. When she finally stirred, I decided to get straight to the point. She was lying in bed, still bitchy, trying to act innocent. I looked her in the eyes and said, "Jessica, I know everything. I know about the emails, the messages, the meetings with David. You've been sleeping with your professor. How long has this been going on?" Her eyes widened for a second, then she sneered. "You're overreacting. You don't know what you're talking about. I was just discussing my research. You're crazy if you think." "Cut the crap," I interrupted. "I saw your emails. I saw the messages you sent. You've been lying to me, deceiving me, betraying me. How many times, how many nights did you spend with him, pretending everything was fine?" She started to get angry, her voice rising. "You're in love, too. You're just jealous because I don't want to be trapped in this boring marriage. Maybe I needed someone who actually cares about me, not some predictable, insecure husband." That was the moment I snapped. I couldn't believe her audacity. I felt rage sunken deep into my bones. I told her, "You're damn right I'm insecure. I loved you, I trusted you. And you lied right to my face, slept around with your professor, and now you expect me to just accept that. You're a bitch, Jessica. You're nothing but a cheating, manipulative bitch, and I'm done." Her face twisted with fury. "You think you're the only one hurt. You think I wanted to do this. Maybe if you weren't so clueless, maybe if you paid attention, I wouldn't have needed someone like David. But you were never enough." I was done listening. I told her I needed to think, and I went out for a walk to clear my head. But the truth was, I was already planning my next move. I knew I couldn't stay in that house, not with her. I knew I had to end this, but I also knew I needed to get more concrete proof. I wanted her to admit it, and I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. Over the next few hours, I decided I had enough evidence to confront her more directly. I contacted a private investigator I found online, paid him to dig into her phone and email records. I didn't care about the cost. I needed the truth. I told him to find everything he could on her relationship with David to see if there was more than just emails. I was desperate for closure, either to end it for good or to have enough leverage to force her to face reality. While I waited for the results, I kept feeling the weight of everything. The betrayal, the lies, the fact that I was blindsided for months. It made me question everything, my judgment, my marriage, whether I was even worth fighting for. But one thing was certain. I was done being the fool. If she thought she was going to keep playing me for a sucker, she had another thing coming. That night I just sat there, staring at the ceiling, replaying all the moments of happiness we'd had, now turned into bitter memories. I was angry at myself for trusting so blindly. But I was also angry at her for being so manipulative, so callous. I knew I had to make a decision soon. Either I fight for her or I finally walk away for good. Whatever I chose, I knew my life was about to change, drastically. The hours waiting for the investigator's report felt like an eternity. I kept checking my phone, packing the room, feeling more anxious with every minute that passed. The whole thing was surreal. I was living through some kind of nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind to Jessica's lies. That sneering, bitchy attitude she threw at me, the way she dodged my questions, I should have seen it coming. Instead, I was just trusting her again and again. Finally, around late afternoon, my phone buzzed. I grabbed it eagerly, heart pounding. The investigator had sent over a detailed report, including some shocking new details. Turns out, Jessica and David had been meeting up secretly for months, not just email exchanges. The investigator had tracked her phone GPS, and it confirmed she was in the same hotel as David that night after her presentation. It wasn't just emails. She had gone to his hotel room, and the messages left no doubt about what they were doing. Reading that report, I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak. She had lied to my face again and again, pretending everything was fine, while she was actively cheating on me with someone I once trusted. That sneering bitch had played me like a fool, and now I had the proof. It was all there in black and white. She'd been sleeping with her professor, the guy who was supposed to be just her mentor, her research confidant. Instead, he was her lover. I knew then I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to confront her with everything. I decided I'd come home early, catch her in the act if I could, and give her the chance to tell me the truth. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I wasn't some naive fool. I was done with the lies. That evening, I pulled into our driveway with the report in my pocket. I felt a cold, hard resolve. I was done pretending everything was okay. When I saw her sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, I knew I had my moment. I sat down across from her, looked her in the eyes, and pulled out the report. "You lied to me," I said, voice steady but full of anger. "I have proof that you've been with David. You've been sleeping with him for months, the emails, the GPS data, everything. How could you do this? How could you cheat on me with someone I trusted?" Her face twisted with rage and defiance. "Oh, come on. You've always been so clueless. I did what I had to do. Honestly, I was bored and you were too busy with your stupid job. David was the only one who actually listened to me. Besides, it's not like I cheated. On you, this was just sex. It's not a big deal." I felt my stomach turn. "Just sex? You're kidding, right? This wasn't just a fling. You've been in a full-blown affair, and you think I should just accept that it, not a big deal." She shrugged, her bitchy attitude shining through. "Look, I told you I was stressed. I didn't mean for it to get out of control. I was just looking for something more, someone who cared about me. Honestly, I don't care what you think anymore." That was the final straw. The anger I'd been holding back exploded. I told her she was selfish, manipulative, and a liar. I said I was done being her fool and I was leaving. I grabbed my keys, packed a bag, and told her she could stay if she wanted, but I was done with the lies, done with her. She yelled at me, calling me all sorts of names, trying to guilt-trip me, but I didn't care. I knew I was making the right choice. That night I moved out. I slept in a hotel, feeling like my soul had been ripped apart, but also relieved that I finally knew the truth. I told myself this was the end of the chapter. I didn't know what was coming next, but I knew I couldn't stay with someone so manipulative, so dishonest. And honestly, I felt free for the first time in months. The betrayal was a heavy weight, but now I could start healing, rebuild myself. I realized that trust, once broken like that, is impossible to repair. Jessica's lies had shattered everything, and I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I learned that sometimes the only way forward is through the pain, and that's what I was about to do. The days that followed were the hardest I've ever experienced. I didn't sleep much, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that bitchy sneer, the emails, the GPS logs. It was like my mind was stuck replaying everything on a loop. Her betrayal, her lies, how she just threw everything we had away for some stupid affair. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to her true nature. The trust I had placed in her was gone, shattered into a million pieces. I moved out of the house and into a small apartment nearby. It was cheap, but it was the only place I could find that wasn't filled with reminders of her. I wanted to keep my distance to clear my head. Still, every day was a battle. I kept trying to piece together what went wrong, and honestly, I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. I kept thinking about every little thing I missed, every time she brushed me off or lied about where she was. I also started talking to some close friends, trying to get some perspective. They told me I deserved better, that I shouldn't let her manipulate me anymore. But deep down, I felt like I was falling apart. I was hurt, humiliated, and more than anything, I was furious. Furious at her for cheating, furious at myself for trusting her so blindly. It was like I'd lost a part of myself, and I didn't know how to get it back. Meanwhile, Jessica was still trying to reach out, texts, calls, even some superficial apology messages. But I didn't want to hear it. I knew her game now. She was trying to guilt me into taking her back, trying to make me believe she was somehow the victim here. But I wasn't stupid. She's manipulative, a liar, and she threw away everything we built because she wanted some cheap thrill with her professor. That's who she is. I refused to go back, refused to be played again. One night I finally sat down and really thought about what I wanted next. The pain was still fresh, but I knew I had to move on. I realized I'd been giving her all my trust, all my love, and she had just taken it and dumped it in the gutter. I promised myself I wouldn't let that happen again. I needed to rebuild my life, to find someone who respected me, who didn't lie and cheat. I also started seeing a counselor. It was painful at first, but I knew I needed help processing what had happened. I didn't want to carry this anger forever. I wanted to forgive her, not for her sake, but for mine. I needed to let go of that pain so I could move forward. The counselor told me that betrayal cuts deep and that healing takes time, but I was determined to come out of this stronger. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was. I thought I had a good marriage, that Jessica was the woman I wanted to grow old with, but she was a bitchy, manipulative liar who only cared about herself. I learned that you can't change people, and sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away before they drag you down even further. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fix. But I also learned I'm stronger than I thought. I can survive this. I will survive this. And someday I'll find someone who truly values me, who respects what we build together, not someone who sneaks around and treats love like a game. Right now, it still hurts, but I know I'll get past it. I have to. Because I refuse to let this define me forever. I deserve better. And I'll find it. It's been a few months since I moved out, and honestly, those months have been a roller coaster. Some days I feel like I'm finally starting to breathe again, that I'm rebuilding piece by piece. Other days, the pain hits hard, and I find myself reliving all the betrayals, all the lies. It's strange how betrayal can twist your entire perception of trust, how it makes you question everything about love, about people, about yourself. What's been hardest is coming to terms with the fact that I was blindsided for so long. Jessica's betrayal was not just about her sleeping with David. It was about how she manipulated my love, my trust, and my naivety. She lied so convincingly, played the victim when it suited her, and never showed a shred of remorse until she saw the evidence I had collected. That sneering attitude, the dismissiveness, they're still etched in my mind. But I remind myself that her behavior says more about her than about me. I've learned a lot from this experience, things I wish I hadn't had to learn the hard way. First, trust is fragile. Once broken, it's almost impossible to fully repair. You can forgive, but the scars remain. Second, never ignore your gut. That nagging feeling that something isn't right. It's usually right. I should have listened to myself sooner, acted sooner. Most importantly, I've come to understand that self-respect is everything. No matter how much you love someone, if they betray you, you have to prioritize your own well-being. Staying in a toxic, manipulative situation isn't love, it's self-destruction. I refuse to let someone treat me like a fool anymore. I've cut ties, moved on, and now I'm focused on healing. And healing, I've realized, is a process. It's not linear and it takes time. Some days I still feel angry, other days I feel hopeful. I've started to reconnect with friends, work on myself, and even try to enjoy life again. I've learned that I don't need someone who manipulates my feelings or lies to my face. I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who truly cares. Most of all, I want others out there to know this. Betrayal hurts, but it doesn't have to define you. You can come out of this stronger. You can rebuild your trust in people, just not blindly. Be cautious, protect your heart, and don't be afraid to walk away when someone shows you they don't deserve your love. It's easy to feel broken at first, but time heals and hope remains. Looking back, I see that this heartbreak was also a wake-up call. I'm more aware now. I know I won't tolerate lies or manipulation. I know I value myself more. And I finally understand that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, even if it hurts like hell. Because in the end, it's better to be alone than with someone who doesn't truly want you. So this is my story, raw, honest, and real. And if anyone else out there is going through something similar, know this: you're not alone. You'll get through it. You'll heal. And someday you'll look back on this pain and see it as a lesson that made you stronger. Trust is precious. Don't let anyone take it from you without earning it. And never forget, your dignity and self-respect are worth more than any fleeting moment of pleasure or betrayal.